I need you to stay with me for the next few minutes because what I'm about to share could completely change the way you understand what's been happening to your body. There is something you can put in your morning coffee, just one simple ingredient that has been quietly linked to a surprising improvement in urinary incontinence. And I'm not talking about some complicated supplement or a prescription you'd need to chase down at a pharmacy. I'm talking about something sitting in almost every kitchen in the world right now, a single clove. But before I tell you exactly how to use it, I need you to understand something first, because if you skip ahead, you'll miss the part that actually makes this work. And that part has everything to do with what's been silently happening inside your body, possibly for years, without anyone ever explaining it to you properly. My name is Dr. Eleanor Whitaker. I've spent over 2 decades working with women in the field of hormonal health, and in that time, I've sat across from thousands of women, brilliant, strong, capable women who came to me exhausted, confused, and honestly a little ashamed. Ashamed because they thought what they were experiencing was just them, just getting older, just being dramatic. They'd been told that the fatigue was stress, that the weight gain was their diet, that waking up 3 times a night to use the bathroom was simply a part of life after a certain age. And the incontinence, the sudden urge that gives you almost no warning, the moments that catch you off guard when you laugh too hard or move too quickly, they'd learned to just manage it quietly, to carry it in silence. If any part of what I just described sounds familiar to you, I want you to hear this clearly. It is not your fault, and it is not just aging. Something specific is happening in your body, and it has a name. And more importantly, it has a reason. Let me ask you something, and I want you to really think about it. When did you start feeling like a slightly different version of yourself? Not dramatically different, just off. Like the energy you used to have has a slow leak somewhere you can't find. Like your body started making decisions without consulting you. Maybe you noticed it in the mornings first, that feeling of waking up already tired, as if sleep stopped being the thing that restored you. Or maybe it was your mood. Small things that never used to bother you suddenly feeling enormous, and you couldn't always explain why. Or the weight, eating the same way you always have, moving through your life the same way, and yet something shifted. The scale, the way your clothes fit, the bloating that seems to appear from nowhere and stay far too long. And somewhere in the middle of all of that, quietly, maybe so gradually you almost didn't notice, the bathroom trips started. First just at night, then with more urgency, then the moments where you weren't quite sure you'd make it in time. Most women I speak with describe that particular symptom as the one that finally made them feel like something was truly wrong, like their body had started betraying them in a way they couldn't hide or explain away anymore. Here's what I want you to understand, and this is the part that changes everything. None of those symptoms exist in isolation. The fatigue, the mood shifts, the weight, the sleep disruption, the urinary urgency, they are all connected. They are all messengers, and they are all coming from the same source. I'll tell you exactly what that source is. And then we're going to come back to the clove, because once you understand the mechanism, what that simple ingredient does in your body is going to make complete sense. And it's going to feel less like a folk remedy and more like something that has been quietly working with your biology all along. Your hormones are not the problem. That's the first thing I want to reframe for you. Your hormones are signals. They are your body's most sophisticated communication system. And when something disrupts that system, every organ that depends on those signals starts to struggle. After the age of 35, sometimes earlier, the body begins a gradual, natural transition. Estrogen and progesterone, 2 of the most important hormonal communicators in the female body, start to fluctuate. Not disappear overnight, but shift, sometimes in small waves, sometimes in larger swings that feel completely unpredictable. And what most women are never told is that estrogen doesn't only affect your reproductive system. It affects your brain, your metabolism, your joints, your skin, your gut, your sleep cycle, and critically, your bladder. The bladder is lined with tissue that is exquisitely sensitive to estrogen. When estrogen levels are stable and sufficient, that tissue stays supple, strong, and well supported. The muscles around the urethra maintain their tone. The signals between the bladder and the brain are clear and coordinated. But when estrogen begins to decline, even slightly, even in perimenopause, years before a formal menopause diagnosis, that tissue starts to thin. The muscles lose some of their responsiveness. The communication between the bladder and the nervous system becomes less precise. And suddenly, the urgency arrives with almost no warning. Suddenly, a cough or a laugh becomes something you have to brace for. Not because you're weak, not because something is broken beyond repair, but because your body's internal signaling system is operating under hormonal conditions it has never had to navigate before. And no one handed you a manual. This is the pattern I have seen in thousands of women. It is almost never one symptom. It is always a cluster: sleep, mood, energy, metabolism, bladder, all shifting at the same time, all pointing back to the same underlying disruption. And because conventional medicine tends to treat each symptom separately, women end up with a sleep aid, an antidepressant, a bladder medication, and still no real explanation for why all of these things happened at once. I want to offer you something different today. I want to offer you the explanation first, because understanding what is actually happening in your body is the beginning of being able to do something meaningful about it. Now, I know some of you watching this right now are recognizing yourselves in what I'm describing. Maybe you've been managing these symptoms quietly for months, maybe years. Maybe you've Googled things late at night when you couldn't sleep, searching for answers that felt incomplete. Maybe you've sat in a doctor's office and been told your levels are normal while knowing, in the way that only you can know your own body, that something is clearly not right. If that's you, if you feel seen right now in a way you haven't in a long time, I want you to pay close attention to what comes next, because this is where the conversation shifts from problem to possibility. There is a link in the description below and in the first comment of this video. That link has been visited by thousands of women in their 40s and 50s who were experiencing exactly what you're experiencing right now: the fatigue, the urgency, the weight, the mood fluctuations, the feeling of being slightly out of sync with your own body. What they found, there was not a promise of a cure. What they found was a method, a way of supporting the body's natural hormonal signaling gently, without synthetic hormones, without drastic interventions. Women who had spent years managing these symptoms quietly described beginning to feel like themselves again. More energy in the morning, fewer bathroom trips interrupting their sleep, a sense of evenness returning to their mood and their metabolism. I'm not asking you to take my word for it. I'm asking you to go look, because if any part of this conversation has resonated with you, that link exists specifically for you. Go to the description, go to the first comment, and see what's there. The information is free, and you deserve to have it. Now, I promised you the Clove, and we're going to get there. But I need you to understand one more thing first, because this next piece is what separates women who start to feel better from women who continue struggling without knowing why. The hormonal disruption I've been describing doesn't stay static. It progresses. The transition from perimenopause into menopause and beyond involves a gradual but consistent decline in estrogenic activity. And without proper support, the symptoms don't plateau. They compound. The bladder tissue continues to thin. The sleep disruptions become more entrenched. The metabolic changes become harder to reverse. The mood instability deepens. And here is the part that most women find most surprising. The longer the body operates under these conditions without support, the more difficult it becomes to restore the baseline. The window during which the body responds most effectively to natural support is not unlimited. I've seen this clinically again and again. Women who acted early, who understood what was happening and took deliberate steps to support their hormonal balance, had significantly better outcomes than women who waited, who told themselves it would pass, who managed each symptom in isolation, who kept assuming the exhaustion was temporary. I am not telling you this to frighten you. I am telling you this because you are watching this video right now, which means you are asking questions, which means the window is still open. Your body is still sending signals, and that is a gift because signals can be answered. So, the clove, Eugenia caryophyllata, what we commonly call clove, contains a compound called eugenol. Eugenol has been studied for its remarkable properties, including its ability to interact with certain receptors in the body that play a role in inflammation, nerve signaling, and this is the part that connects directly to what we've been talking about, smooth muscle function. The bladder wall contains smooth muscle tissue. The pelvic floor contains smooth muscle tissue. And the urinary tract, including the tissue that lines the urethra, is exquisitely sensitive to inflammatory signals and nerve tone. When estrogen declines, inflammation in these tissues tends to increase subtly, not dramatically, not in a way that shows up on standard panels, but enough to disrupt the signaling that coordinates normal bladder function. Eugenol appears to have a gentle modulatory effect on that inflammatory pathway. It also has properties that interact with the body's natural receptor systems in ways that may support smoother, more coordinated muscle signaling. When you place a whole clove in your coffee, not clove powder, not clove extract, a single whole dried clove, and allow it to steep while the coffee brews or sits, a small but meaningful concentration of eugenol is released into the liquid. Consumed in the morning, when cortisol is naturally peaking and the nervous system is activating for the day, this small dose enters a body that is primed for absorption. The effect is not immediate in the dramatic sense. This is not a pharmaceutical acting in minutes. But over days and weeks of consistent use, many women report a noticeable reduction in urgency in the frequency of nighttime bathroom trips and in the unpredictability of bladder signaling that made them feel like they'd lost control of something fundamental. One clove in your morning coffee every day. But here is what I need to be honest with you about. The clove supports one pathway, one piece of a much more complex picture, because the bladder symptoms you're experiencing are a downstream effect of a systemic hormonal shift, and addressing only the downstream effect while leaving the root system untouched will only ever give you partial relief. The women I mentioned earlier, the ones who found that link in the description and in the first comment, they didn't just discover a tip. They discovered a framework, a way of approaching the body as an integrated system of supporting the hormonal signals that govern not just bladder function, but sleep, metabolism, mood, energy, and the overall feeling of being at home in your own body again. I want that for you, not because I want you to click a link, but because I have spent 20 years watching women suffer unnecessarily through a transition that, with the right support, does not have to feel like suffering. The symptoms you are carrying right now are not a life sentence. They are a message, and every message has a response. Go to the description below. Go to the first comment. The link there has already helped thousands of women who were sitting exactly where you are right now, recognizing themselves in these symptoms, wondering if it was too late to feel different, half convinced that this was just what getting older felt like. It is not too late. Your body is still listening. The question is whether you're ready to answer. The clove is a beginning, but the beginning is not where this ends. What's waiting for you in that link is the rest of the conversation, the one your body has been trying to have with you for a long time. Go find it. It's there for you.